My grandfather's lawyer called and said, "There's a condition in the will you need to know about." I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store when the call came through. The lawyer's voice was formal but carried an edge of discomfort I couldn't place. He said before any assets could be distributed, all potential beneficiaries had to take a DNA test. My grandfather had apparently arranged for a specific lab to conduct the testing, prepaid everything years in advance, and left explicit instructions that anyone who refused would be automatically disqualified from inheritance. I asked why a DNA test was necessary. The lawyer paused for 3 full seconds before saying, "Your grandfather believed not everyone in your family is who they claim to be." My grandfather passed away 2 weeks earlier at 91 years old. He built a small real estate empire over 6 decades, nothing massive, but enough that his estate was worth roughly $4 million. My father was his only surviving child, which meant my dad, my brother Elliot, and I were the primary beneficiaries. We'd already started discussing how the inheritance might help each of us. Dad wanted to retire early. Elliot needed help with his mortgage. I was planning to pay off my student loans. The DNA requirement seemed paranoid but harmless. Grandpa had always been eccentric, suspicious of outsiders, obsessed with family legacy. We figured this was just one last quirk from a man who'd never fully trusted anyone. The results came back 3 weeks later in sealed envelopes delivered simultaneously to each family member. The lawyer scheduled a video call to review them together, said it was required by the will's instructions. My dad opened his envelope first on camera and confirmed what we all expected. Biological match to my grandfather, 99.98% probability. Elliot went next. Same result. Biological grandchild confirmed. I opened mine casually, already thinking about which loans to pay first. The paper inside had different formatting than theirs. A highlighted section near the bottom read, "No biological relationship detected to Harold Brennan or any tested Brennan family members." I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. My dad's face on the video call went completely still. Elliot's mouth dropped open. The lawyer cleared his throat and said this was exactly the scenario my grandfather had anticipated. I demanded to know what that meant. The lawyer pulled up a letter my grandfather had written before his death, displayed it on screen share so we could all read it simultaneously. "To whoever receives this news, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Your mother knows the truth. Ask her, and know that I loved you regardless of blood, which is why I'm still leaving you your share. But my family deserves to know what was hidden from them." My mother had been dead for 6 years. I couldn't ask her anything. I called my dad after the video call ended. He wouldn't pick up. I called Elliot, straight to voicemail. I drove to my father's house and found him sitting in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey, something he never drank. He looked at me like I was a stranger wearing his son's face. "Dad, I don't understand what's happening." He took a long drink before answering. "Your mother had an affair. I suspected it once, confronted her. She denied everything. I believed her because I wanted to. I asked who my biological father was. He shook his head slowly. I don't know. She never told me. I convinced myself I was paranoid and never brought it up again. I stood in his living room realizing my entire identity had been a lie my mother told to protect herself. And my grandfather had known the whole time, but waited until death to expose it. The next week, Elliot called me for the first time since the results. His voice was cold. I talked to Dad. "We think you should waive your portion of the inheritance." I asked why. "Because you're not really family. That money was built by Brennans for Brennans. You're not one of us." I reminded him that grandfather's letter specifically said I should still receive my share. Elliot laughed bitterly. "That was his choice. This is ours. We're contesting the will. Our lawyer says we have grounds since the DNA proves you're not a biological descendant." I hung up and immediately called the estate lawyer. He confirmed Elliot and my dad had filed a formal challenge that morning. They were arguing the DNA test my grandfather required should disqualify me entirely, even though his letter said the opposite. The court date arrived 4 months later. I brought the original letter my grandfather wrote, time-stamped and notarized, stating his explicit intention that I inherit regardless of biological connection. I brought the lab results showing he'd ordered these specific tests, knowing exactly what they might reveal. I brought financial records showing he'd paid for my college, my first car, my wedding, treating me identically to Elliot for 28 years, despite apparently knowing the truth. The judge reviewed everything while my father and brother sat across the courtroom, refusing to look at me. Their lawyer argued bloodline and tradition. My lawyer argued documented intent and decades of consistent treatment. The judge ruled that a man's clearly stated final wishes take precedence over family members' preferences about who deserves to benefit from them. I received my full third of the estate, $1.3 million after taxes. My father and Elliot split the remainder, but lost an additional $80,000 in legal fees trying to cut me out. We haven't spoken since the ruling, and I've stopped trying. Last month, I did an expanded DNA search and found a half-sister I never knew existed living 40 miles away. Her father, my biological father, died in 2019. She showed me photos of him. I have his eyes.